On what's said to be a bounce back into relevancy year for the Arizona Cardinals in 2025, is it safe to say that this is the most cohesive unit we've seen in the last decade? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. 15th year in sports media, 9th year hosting this damn show, 10th year, 9th season. It's crazy. It's crazy how far we've come and how close to being on the precipice of something actually good to talk about for an entire year we're at. Bringing things to a screeching halt. Bringing my buddy in, Bo Brack, PHNX Cardinals. I can't really, dude, the comments are now like, you guys are being childish. It's like, bro, we grew up in this industry together. Let us be children together. Like, who cares?
Man.
We work over with Johnny Venerable, PHNX Cardinals. Dude, so a couple things. Let's just jump right into it. One thing that you and I talked about a lot when we hosted the show together, and one thing that's kind of been a nuance throughout at least the last couple years is like, man, these guys, especially the rookies, like they enjoy being here. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, this is where I was drafted. I want a contract extension. If you're not going to give me money, I'm out kind of thing. Paris Johnson Jr. loves being here. Bear hugged Kyler. You know, all of these guys, Darius Robinson, Marv, Will John, like these guys want to be here. When you're around the team, does it show that? Does it exude like we're here together, this is a family kind of thing?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's a testament to Jonathan Gannon and his culture building, but it's identifying the right fit, right? Not only are they getting good ball players, but guys who love the grind, that love just playing football. They love ball. That's what JG would say, right? So they're very like-minded individuals where I think if you were to look at previous iterations of the Arizona Cardinals, you would find a lot of talented individuals. You would find DeAndre Hopkins. You would see, James Conner in there at some time, and they're running they're running their own race. Where I think now there's a unified goal, and there's this just group of guys right now. It's 90. It's going to be down to 53, and plus the coaching staff that just love the work. The work is their life, and they've been able to identify that. And I think that's where the success has been made from Monty Ossenfort and Gannon in the kind of not the recruitment process, but the team building process of finding the individuals that are like that and that could fit right in. And that's really kind of expedited the culture building and why you kind of get the sense that they are just this kind of close-knit group of guys where before that wasn't necessarily the truth.
Yeah, I mean, because it was one of the things I've said over the last couple of years is a transplant city, just like the city in which they play. It's hard to build momentum when there's not a lot of quote-unquote Arizona Cardinals on the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. It's a lot of 3-year, 4-year draft and duds and guns and Isaiah Simmons and things like that. And the cohesion it's interesting because you can't really fake it. Like Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon, they want guys who are violent, who are killers, who like to tackle. And I think there's like a band of thief mentality where it's like, oh, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Now let's put this wizard-like defense together and become a top 5 defense. And I think that's where we're starting to see the bricklayers run out on the third level. Yeah. And before we pivot into fixing the offense and the actual vet value we're going to see in 2025, I'm in the camp that 2025 is more about the floor for this team and not the ceiling. You want to see that raised where it's like, this is what the least you're going to get on every series on either side of the ball, which has been a lost concept over the last couple of years. Is it more for the blowout or for consistency for you in 2025?
I mean, the team's always going to preach consistency, right? They have that.
We haven't seen as much.
Yeah, right. But I mean, to them, there is a certain floor where they're able to produce points, and even though it looks trying, especially on the offensive side of the football and the defensive side of the football, they're able to avoid letting the opposing team in the end zone, but they're able to maybe bend, don't break. So there has been a little bit of a floor, but at the same time, like, have they tapped into the potential? And I think that all parties involved would say absolutely not. And that's where it lacks consistency, but there is a bit, to kind of go back on it. There is a bit of consistency, at least setting the groundwork there, the floor there. And I think that starts with Gannon. Like, I think Gannon is just one of those coaches now that regardless of the talent he's going to have at his disposal is he's going to be able to at least coach you into a certain amount of wins, where there's some guys who can't coach you out of a paper bag in the league. And I think that you can at least have confidence that Gannon's one of those guys.
Well, and I think part of that with their drafting strategy, like Jordan Burch is fascinating me because he's got a skill set that other players on the Cardinals don't have. And Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis specifically are guys that can position their dudes to do the thing that they're best at while being a part of the symphony of other players and not having, to live outside their means by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Or offensively, before we pivot into the fix, is like they've looked like a top 5 offense and a bottom 5 offense in the same game on back-to-back series at times. So when it comes to Drew Petzing, when it comes to Kyler Murray, it's hard to defend Kyler Murray at this point. Okay. We've seen the peak of what he can be, which is 5 quarterbacks can hit that peak. But the valleys are what you're looking at. Trevor Lawrence and all these guys that have that valley. Like, is the offense the struggle point at this point? And is that Drew Petzing, or is this Kyler Murray just like either he hits it or he doesn't in 2025?
I think there's a sense that, like, when we talk about the floor and the inconsistencies, it's like the offense, you see Kyler Murray, who's just an explosive player. You've got the run game that over the last, under Drew Petzing has really been in the top of the league as far as, run game explosives. And then you look at this passing attack. You added Marvin Harrison Jr. You've got one of the best tight ends in the league, and Trey McBride. Where are the explosives there? And, you've had Mina on your show before. Mina Kimes said, like, you got to take the restrictor plate off this thing. You got to let this kind of eat a little bit. I think the defense provides you now an opportunity that you didn't necessarily have before, where you can kind of take those chances. And if you have a 3 and out, you're going to have a defense that's going to be able to get you right back off the field via 3 and out itself or a turnover. But yeah, I mean, at some point you're going to have to find the explosives in this passing game, and you feel like you have the personnel in place, but now it's like, okay, you're going to have to show it. You're going to have to prove it, because you had a down year before. And then once you start to have, back-to-back on successful seasons as far as pushing the ball down the field, it becomes a trend, and it kind of becomes of who you are as an offense. And, I think that just given what people are seeing as the personnel, that would be deemed unacceptable.
Yeah, and the big pivot point last year was when they stopped scoring touchdowns on their opening drive. That was it. Like, winning teams score touchdowns, losing teams kick field goals. And we saw this seismic shift after their bye week where things just went stale. And I think that is predominantly Drew Petzing not evolving and adapting the way he should with the skill position players he has. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next segment. I will give you my thoughts. You can tell me how right I am per usual. Bo Brack at BOBRACK on Twitter, PHNX Cardinals.
I'm out of here. I'm checking out after that comment.
Later. We'll be right back. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are bonkers. They're absolutely insane, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live, whether it's player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. You want to pick who's going to win the championship? There's 4 teams left. Good luck. Is going to be OKC. Is another team going to take over the crown? We'll find out. But you can put your cheese down on whatever you want at FanDuel. New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. You know the drill. Bo Brack joining me here. What I discussed earlier in the week was I wouldn't be surprised if Trey McBride's numbers went down, but his value skyrocketed. I wouldn't be surprised if James Conner's numbers went down and his value skyrocketed. And what I mean by that is there is no world where Trey McBride should have one less rushing touchdown than receiving touchdown. I don't see a world where Trey McBride shouldn't have 10 receiving touchdowns. I don't see a world where James Conner shouldn't have 10, 12, 14 rushing touchdowns. And I think the utilization of everybody on offense, everybody, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Elijah Higgins, I know you're really high on him, wide receiver transition into tight end. He can definitely run routes. And then Trey Benson and a third back, like a Michael Carter scat back kind of dude to unlock the entirety of this offense. Like, they're using 40% of what this offense could be. And they're beating it to a pulp. and I don't think it's a recipe for success. Do you think that that's the correct next step, or do you think that there's something else that they should be doing to unlock it?
No, I mean, what you're describing is kind of more efficient offense, right? Instead of somebody having to make a big play to show their worth, their value, like you saw that throughout last season when Trey McBride's true coming out party, 1,100 yards. And I know there was the touchdown, discrepancy that he was able to kind of remedy at the end of the season with back-to-back receiving touchdowns in the final 2 games. But I think what they're always striving for is that efficiency. Kyler Murray be the most efficient quarterback, finding the open player, not forcing the ball. And, is that what they're going to be proven right? Or they obviously want to prove right as far as the chemistry, the continuity of this offense. And it's going to have to. They're going to have to show themselves. But, I think what you'll see, like the end of the year last year where they were able to get Trey McBride in the end zone, it seemed a lot easier once they started doing it, right? And they found ways to do that. Is that going to can they parlay that into this season? They should be able to. Like the schedule's conducive to it. They're playing some bad defenses, some bad teams, but it really is like we could talk until we're blue in the face about this offense, and it's all just going to come down to execution and doing it. And then they're out, like, even when they do it the first 6 games of the season against non-playoff teams, people are going to be like, okay, well, let's see them do it against the gauntlet that is the final 6 games of the season. So there is going to be, this is like from start to finish going to be a season that's under a microscope, especially offensive for Kyler Murray and crew. And that's just a reality I think they're all willing to accept, because I think they all understand, and they've admittedly so, like they fell short of what their expectations were last year offensively.
Greg Dortch's best games were after they were eliminated from playoff contention. Trey McBride's 2 touchdown catches were after they were eliminated from playoff contention. Okay.
Right.
So that's the big bugaboo here, Bo, alliteration aside. Like when you look at, there are 0 shortcomings of the offense in the pass catcher room. We've seen Greg Dortch be special. We've seen Michael Wilson win against the sideline, contort his body, catch 2 feet down. I don't care about his separation percentages. Right. I don't care. He catches everything. He's 6'3". Like, there's no world. And this is kind of like the next level thought process, because we talk about this team so much. Like, I'd much rather on 1st and 10, if it's play action, and not have a 5-yard dump down to Trey McBride just to move the ball forward. Maybe fake it and take a shot down the sideline to Michael Wilson, who's going to be one-on-one against the third corner. Like, there's so many different levels to this offense that are extinct. Like, they're never even touched. Mark gets his looks, Trey gets all the looks, and that's it. Like, wouldn't you want to set this up for the first 6 weeks where you spread the ball around, you make it muscle memory like Drew Brees did in New Orleans? It's Robert Meacham one week. It's Devery Henderson another week. It's Marcus Colson. Like, why not do that? They can. Right. And they just don't.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that comes from kind of the brain trust that is your play caller and your quarterback, the guy out there on the field. And you want him to kind of be that conductor of that sweet symphony where he's just hitting all the right notes, right? And I think, you saw that few too often last season. Like, you saw it in the Miami Dolphins game. You saw it in week 2 against the Rams. You certainly saw it against the Jets where, Kyler had 2 incompletions that whole game and very well could have completed those balls if Trey McBride hauls that one in the end zone, and it was almost a perfect game that he tossed. But then you saw games where they just didn't feel like they were in rhythm, and that comes down to this. When you're out there and you're the decision maker, and I'm starting to see statistics surface on social media where Kyler Murray was in top 5 as far as check down quarterbacks, and he's a guy that's in the bottom of the league as far as clean pockets and throwing downfield. Like. These are things that are kind of glaring that you're going to have to clean up. Like, Kyler Murray doesn't have to be a top 10 downfield passer. If he's in the middle of the road, like, his season looks very different last year because, he's checking down. He feels like he's making the safe play, but you also have to, like, what's the first, like, image or video we remember seeing about Jonathan Gannon that, probably people made fun of way too much, but the pew, pew, pew shots explosives. That's what he wants to be offensively. And they weren't that last year, and they have to find some sort of semblance of that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We'll pivot to the vet value here in a second. It's like somebody that's really smart who refuses to study. Like, it's like, you always had that friend growing up who's like, man, you're so much smarter than your C grades. What are you doing? It's like, it just hadn't figured it out yet. And this is the year where there's expectations, there's ramifications if they don't get to where they're expected to go. And I just don't see a world where they don't figure it out. I mean, that's for me. Like, this is something where Kyler Murray's a smart dude, JG smart dude, Drew Petzing, like, I want to see a world where they cannot be schemed for because they have so many weapons. You put Greg Dortch with Patrick Mahomes, 50 catches, 7 touchdowns. He has it.
Yeah.
And like, he's the dude that can make a opposing defense's brain explode. It's like, how do you scheme for everybody? And I think that's something they just need to figure out going into 2025. Now, with that, go ahead.
I just think, like, if you were to watch, like, you bring up the NBA playoffs and you watch like SGA operate within the Oklahoma City Thunder offense, and the spacing is immaculate.
Yeah.
You watch Ant try to operate on the other side, and it's like there's no space. He can't do crap, and it's just like the same thing. It's like you have to set your players up offensively, especially for success. Like, how do you get Greg Dortch in space? Because we know he's your punt return. Get him in space. That's what you should be doing. And it should be there if defenses are keying in on James Conner, the running back, Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver on the outside playing X, and then, Trey McBride over the middle. Like, those should be options. Why isn't it happening that way? I know we're simplifying it, but it should be like if defenses emphasize one area, that should open up another one. Why aren't we seeing that? So I do want to say this because I don't want you to misrepresent yourself to the audience. You used an analogy as far as studying. That wasn't an indictment on the quarterback who at one point had an infamous study clause. It's just like, I think now this offense is in year 3 should become muscle memory, and that those other opportunities should just be a sixth sense for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I just meant as the offense as in the personification of the offense. Yeah, I appreciate that. I just think
a lot of people like Clancy saying Kyler doesn't study. Are we getting back on this again?
Yeah, I love to bring up old stuff that is completely irrelevant to what's happening now. Just check the comments. That's where you can find it. I think they run the ball too much early, and I think that stagnates the offense. And I think that's something that needs to change. Like, it's a run-first offense, but it can be 55-45. You put the ball in your best player's hands a little bit more, you get the juices flowing. And hopefully we see a better outcome at the end of the 2025 season. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, the vet value, Budda Baker, Calais Campbell, James Conner, massive impact on and off the field. We'll discuss that next. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Leave a like on the video. Check out Bo at BOBRACK, PHNX Cardinals. They do a great job over there. So I did yesterday's show highlighting Budda Baker, Calais Campbell, and James Conner. Mm-hmm. I mentioned, and it's kind of abstract, but Calais Campbell's signing was the most important signing for the Cardinals in the way of showing that things are different now. He didn't have to. He could have gone to 31 other teams. Hey, Chiefs, I'll take $11. You need a 6'8" dude in the middle of the defense, in the middle defensive line? Yes, sure. Like, him signing a 1 year, a 6 and change deal, it's like, that shows that there's been a shift. And I don't believe I'm overstating that. Now, with Budda Baker and James Conner, I was in the camp. They should re-sign them, and they did. These guys are going to have massive impacts this year on and off the field without any real pressure to save a position group. Mm-hmm. Do you see these 3 guys as like I think Budda Baker could have his best year this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all set up for success in their different positions because of who they have in the room with them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Like, here's one thing. I don't want to overstate the vet thing because I think that Monty Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon have done a really good job in finding guys that are, self-starters, or guys that you can trust to develop, to put in the work, that aren't going to be overwhelmed and you need just some guy who happens to be in your position group, like, take you aside, and like the romantic idea of, let me show you the ropes, young man. And it's like this old head or whatever. I think it's more of a testament to James Conner, to Budda Baker, to Calais Campbell, that these guys broke what we considered the mold of what the Arizona Cardinals wanted from a player. They wanted to be drafted, developed, premium positions that, our guys are significantly under 30 years old. James turns 30. Calais is well past 30. And Buda Baker's headed there and doesn't play a premium position that, Jonathan Gannon essentially has shown in the past he can develop, from anywhere. But those guys transcended those spots in wherever they were in their NFL career. And the Cardinals were just like, we got to have these guys. And that's like a true testament to those guys, because not only do they bring like tremendous value to the roster, but also they're guys that fit right in as far as their processes go. It's not like the Steve Keim kicking the tires. Is there anything left in this washcloth? No, it's all wrung out. This guy's washed. It's these guys can still bring tremendous value on and off the field.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think Buda Baker never had a CB1 and CB2 since being drafted in 2017. Patrick Peterson was on the Taylor end. They didn't have anybody in that room.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy, the kid from Florida whose name who I always talk
Marco
about.
Wilson.
Marco Wilson, he's never had 10 dudes in front of him as a cohesive unit to where he could just play free like he's best at. He's had to cover up. He's had to be kitchen nightmares Gordon Ramsay ever since being drafted. And we saw last year without a pass rush, the impact that he had. Imagine, if you told me he was an all-pro safety after this year, I'd be like, okay, yeah. Because he finally has what Tyrann Mathieu had in Kansas City. He finally has dudes where he doesn't have to babysit and he can just go be special. And I think above all else, of all three, he's going to make the biggest impact. Calais Campbell has to make the least impact because they've got 38 dudes for 3 or 4 positions. And then for James, tell me what you think about this and I'll get you out of here on this. I've been a huge proponent. I've talked to you about this, about him taking the LeGarrette Blount role. 60%, but the most important 60% of the touches. 55%, but the most important 55% of the touches, and let the kid eat between the 20s. If Trey Benson can average between 4.3 and 4.6 yards a carry like he did last year, and he doesn't fumble the ball, and he's ready in his second year just to rip, I have no problem dropping his numbers and just giving him the premium stuff that he's so good at, especially inside the 5-yard line, etc.
There's so much trust in James Conner to be able to do everything they want. Gannon called him the blueprint. Yeah. So even there's a lot of confidence that Trey Benson can narrow that gap. It's pretty wide right now as far as what. Yeah. So and what does the organization say? The way you get better at football is playing football. So you're gonna have to get Benson some touches. And I would imagine there's gonna be an uptick, no doubt about it. But it's still gonna. Yeah. We'll see what that work share looks like. Is it more of a work share, or is it just like James Conner with, supplement here with, with Benson and Darren Mercado on third down? That's going to be fascinating. Or are they going to run James Conner like a Toyota Tercel, just continue to rack up the miles?
It stales the offense, doesn't it? It stales it. It's like the Seattle game was the perfect metric. Coming out of the bye week on an all-time high, they couldn't run the ball. They scored 9 points. They got nothing going on offense because the run game didn't work. It's got to be a combination. It's got to be a marriage between the run game and the pass game, and not just hoping the run game works. So if the pass game doesn't work, there is a wildly bigger issue than the run game not working.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. He's some can make the case that he's the vocal point of the offense, which is crazy.
And he has been since he came over.
Right. So it's one of those fine lines I think you have to walk as a play caller. That's And Drew Petzing's going to have to show his worth as far as being able to do that to avoid – it's going to happen. Defensive play callers are so talented in this league that they're going to be able to take away that. But at the same time, are you going to be able to pivot? Can you do what happened in Miami? Took James Conner away, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride made him pay. That didn't happen enough. Seattle game, they took it away, didn't have anything else to fall back on, which was a shocking realization. That was a sobering game because you're just can you rely on them to do this when they take away what they want to do? One thing I wanted to, the Buda thing is really interesting. The Cardinals of Bruce Arians and those teams were built for Arians and his connections and him knowing, players, defensive front seven, and Steve Keim benefited off after the Cardinals that we knew kind of went away. They let Calais Campbell walk, and the defensive front seven, kind of started to fall apart. That's when Budda Baker came into this organization. He just never had the ability where the defense could both rush and cover. You're right. Like, this is the first time, like, he's been always said, like, he's a great safety, but he doesn't take the ball away. Can he change that? Will he ever be that? This is going to be his best chance. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Tell people where they can find you, dude.
Yeah, PHNX Cardinals, just like Alex, talking about this team every day. We're back at it every 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, they took off yesterday. I didn't.
I know.
Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without
give you one.
I will talk to you tomorrow.